Now, I'm down at the beach doing some flying and I'm waiting for some batteries to charge, so I thought it's time we had a bit of a catch-up. So I've just done a bunch of flights and I've got some gear recharging while I wait. I do tend to bring with me these days the EB55 power station. It's a little bit heavy, but the great thing is I can charge on the go. I've been out flying the new iFly Eco. I actually just binned it into the sand. That's going to need a bit of cleaning up. But yeah, that's all right. And I've also been trying to get the review finished on this tiny little Emax Freestyle quad. I love this thing, honestly. I really do love this thing. The only problem for me with it is it's always windy where I live. It's windy now. I don't know if you can see the trees. It doesn't look that windy, but trust me, it is. And it's just not the ideal quad for that. But yeah, so I'm just waiting on that lot to charge before I fly again, and I thought I'd do this video. So while that's all charging, I thought I'd have a bit of a chat with you, because it's been a while since I've done one of these blogging videos, and there's been some stuff on my mind I wanted to share, and it's been a crazy few weeks as well. For the BL Heli stuff yesterday, we're going to have the live stream tonight. This video will go up this afternoon probably. If it doesn't, the live stream was last night, but we will be doing that. And I just sort of wanted to give you a bit of an update on where I'm at, where I'm thinking, and the channel. And look, it's been an amazing period. Channel's hit 55,000 subs, which is incredible. That is amazing, and it comes with really great benefits. It does also, though, come with some downsides. And the downsides is the more popular you get, the more comments you get from haters, the more people who want to see you fail, the more people who just want to say bad things about you. And that is something I've had to take a bit of an adjustment period on, because it sort of hits you without you realizing it, and everyone wants to have an opinion on your opinion. You know, I will say something completely flippantly and someone will have an opinion on that, and I'm now having to think a lot more about the stuff I say. But I also don't want to change what I built with the channel and how I behave, in the sense of I'm always trying to be as honest as I can with you, but I do at times have to be a bit more mindful of the flippant comments, because people will take it out of context as well. Now, obviously I get a lot of feedback on the channel, which is incredible. I welcome it all, good and bad. And one of the ones I did want to address is my piloting skills, because I do see a lot of people comment on this, that he's a shit pilot, he's not very good, why do people watch him? And look, I'm going to set the bar straight. I am not a great pilot. I'm not even a freestyle pilot. Look, I'm really lucky. I live here. I have this beach. I have, in fact, probably about 35 of these beaches around me. This is a quiet one I tend to fly at because there's generally not a lot of people here. But I don't live somewhere where there's a lot of abandoned buildings, bandos and places like that. I have this. So the type of flying you will see from me is generally flat, level, this kind of stuff. My field, which was my go-to place, is pretty much unusable now. I don't have a dedicated home to fly other than the beaches. It's always windy. I do struggle. And the reality is, I am not a freestyle pilot. I've been flying since 2013, 2012. I've been around a long time, and I fly a lot of aircraft. I do fly wings, I fly planks, not so much these days, but I have flown planks, and I fly quads. I fly quads predominantly, but I don't really have the time to practice anymore. And I've always said this, right? There are good pilots, great pilots, and amazing pilots. Now, the amazing guys have something the rest of us don't. There's a natural ability there that we just don't have. But good and great pilots, I firmly believe anyone can become a good and great pilot, and it all comes down to practice. Flight time, 5-10 packs a day at a bando. You keep doing it, you will become competent, you will become good, you'll become great. I'm not a bot. I'm not even a Bardwell. I'm not these guys who are out and out great freestyle pilots. I'm just a guy who lives in a place like this, who loves to go flying. And I do think at times that I see the comments and think, oh, do I need to put a bit more effort into practicing? Honestly, I don't have the time. If I put practice into flying, you know, if I had to drive 2 hours to go and fly a bando, I am going to be horrific. You know, people ask me to come, I'll come and fly here, and it's like, I'd love to. You're going to see a shit pilot, right? You're going to see a guy who barely can fly around a bando these days. I just can't. I've done them. I've been lucky in the past that I have gone to some places and flown some cool stuff. But I turn up now and I'm going to be a waste of space. And I do think about it a bit at times, but the reality is this. I am the pilot that I am. If I want to be better at freestyle, I just need to practice more. I go through phases where I fly every day. I go through phases where I don't have a lot of time to fly at all. I have the channel, I have the family. I hope people aren't watching my content for the flights. Look, the reality is this. I am a highly technical person. I understand. I'm really lucky that I was born with a brain that looks at technical things in a certain way, and I have the ability with my hands. And I know how a drone should fly. I know how a drone should feel. I know the ins and outs from a technical aspect. I can tell you if a quad has some tuning issues. I can tell you if a quad isn't built quite right or doesn't have the right feel to it. But that doesn't mean I have to be the greatest pilot in the world. And here's an example of that. I have a couple of guys I know who are amazing photographers, right? Some of these guys, honestly, their technical ability isn't the greatest. I'm not going to say they don't know how to use a camera, but they're not the most technical people in the world. But from a creative point of view, they're on another level. Whereas I personally, like as a photographer, I'm incredibly technical. I understand the deep inside out of how a camera works and the options and the settings and the modes, and it's the same for drones. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm a great pilot, but it doesn't mean my opinion or my thoughts on things is any less valid than, say, a Mr. Steele, a Mr. Bot Grinder and these others. And really what I'm just trying to say here is, look, I am always going to be me. You're not going to see great flying. You can say, oh, he's a shit pilot. I'll agree with you. Okay, let's get that out the way. I am a shit pilot, but what I am and what I try to offer is content that you can't get anywhere else. Now, as I said earlier, it's been a crazy period of the channel. It's grown incredibly. It's over 55,000 subs, and it's amazing. Look, I never imagined getting to that size. I'm really lucky to I've got to speak with some incredible people. I have a fantastic Discord server with some amazing guys who, like, I think those who know me on my Discord server, you know, I don't hide away. I'm there. I talk every day. You know, you'll hear from me. I'll answer questions. And I'm really lucky how the FPV community has welcomed me in. And for the majority of cases, that welcoming in is always positive. You'll get the haters, but the haters are what the haters are. And it was interesting to see that in the Cadex thing when I put that video out last week, because you had all the people going, he hates Cadex, he's a shill for DJI. Then you got the people who were calling me a shill for Cadex and hate DJI. And the reality is, like, I can't win. I'm in a position now where I can say a flippant comment and someone's going to love it, someone's going to hate it, and it's going to end up posted online. And I have had to think about this a little bit more in how I talk about things and the things that I say, because now people pay attention, which is a bit weird for me. You know, I'm used to just saying my opinion. I am opinionated. That is a reality. But I'm used to just saying that opinion and moving on with my life. Now I'll say something and then there's 10 people who will say something about it, which is okay. That is a great responsibility. It's a pressure as well, and you've got to think about that when you are talking. But the reality is, I always want to be me. I always want to say the things I've always said, be me, because I don't want to have to be guarded in my comments. But when I make a video like that, you know, it wasn't done to cause a stir. The reality is, I bought those goggles. I was hoping for two outcomes, as I said in the video. In some ways, I was hoping they were a complete shit show, because it would have made a great video. That if they'd come in damaged and, you know what I mean, blown up, you know, burnt the boards out, someone, the user, done something, it would have been a great story, just because it would have been fun and interesting. But then they came in good nick, and then we had the board problems. I tried everything I could do to repair them, and this is ongoing. There's still some stuff you guys don't know yet, which we'll come to. But then it was like, oh, I was told the part's not available. And I thought, well, that's the story here. That's the interesting bit of info that I want to put out there. It wasn't done in any way to cause problems to Cadex. It wasn't done in any way as malice or to cause a stir. It was, here's the journey. It was quite a fun video. This is all this time I've spent on it, and this is the outcome. And it's quite funny just to see the people's comments of, he hates Cadex. And look, there was never any malice. Now, the great thing is Cadex have reached out. We've hopefully got a board coming. There might be something else happening as well, which I'll tell you about in the future. But it was never done for anything than giving you guys the information that I felt you need. Whenever I make content, for me, I always just try to think, what bit of info in this is useful for the person? Now, you can make content, and I could have made that video and just gone, hi, I have a set of broken goggles. The board isn't available, so I can't fix them. You should be aware that the board isn't available. Goodbye. That's very informational. That's very straight. But it's not really how I make content. And I don't do it to cause a stir, but I do it where I think, let's create something of value in the whole. There's something in it for everyone. And, you know, if you just make content very straight and blank, you know, here's a piece of information, you decide what you want to do with it. For me, that's just not how I make content. I do overemphasize things. I do probably go over things way too much in the videos. I do repeat myself at times. But I also live by a few rules. A rule of thirds is one thing I've always lived of. And the reason here's something I've never said. One of the reasons I repeat comments quite a lot in my content in my video is, so I'll say something 2 or 3 times. There is a rule of thirds, for those who don't know. You say something, the rule of thirds sticks in people's minds. So if you say a flippant comment of, oh, by the way, just be careful, this is limited to 4S, and you move on, there are a bunch of people who will never pick that up, okay? Whereas if you mention 2 or 3 times in the video, oh, this is limited to 6S, and then a few minutes later, and here's how you connect the battery, remembering that it is limited to 6S, and then say it again at the end as a highlighted, yes, you're repeating, but what you're doing is reinforcing that message in the people's heads. And why am I doing that? Because it's an important message. You don't want people to forget that specific aspect, and that's why I do it. Sometimes I probably go overboard, but that is the reality of why I do it. But when you're making content, you do want to put something out that people will watch and see. And it makes me laugh because in that video, I had so many people saying, oh, you only did it for clicks. You only make content to be viewed, right? No creator makes a video that isn't going to be seen, that it doesn't want to be seen. What is the point of making a video that no one's going to watch? So first of all, you want your content to be seen. So it has to be done in such a way that engages with the audience and grabs their attention. But secondly, then you get people saying, oh, well, the thumbnail was only clickbait. Come on. As I said in my thing, a clickbait thumbnail is something that is untrue. A clickbait thumbnail is bait and switch. What isn't clickbait is if the thumbnail is true. So that thumbnail said, parts no longer available, parts not available. That's a fact. That's not clickbait. That is factual. Clickbait would have been, parts are not available. And then at the end I said, Caddicks have told me I can buy the board for £120. That's clickbait. A thumbnail that is factually correct is not clickbait, no matter how much people think, oh, that was done to cause a stir. A thumbnail is like one of the most important things of a video, and I'm terrible at it. Honestly, I am shocking at thumbnails. I'm not really good at them at all. But it is something that is important, and sometimes, yes, it's done to grab attention, but it's not done to mislead or intentionally take people in a different direction. It's done to say, hey, there's something here you might want to see. But anyway, I'm rambling. That whole episode was interesting, and the people who think I'm great think I'm great. The people who hate me. The reality is this: look, I just make the content I make. That is what it is. Other than that, really, everything on the channel has been going incredibly well. I have taken a bit of a slowdown on it a minute. It got a bit crazy, so things are a bit quieter. I have a few products that I'm reviewing, like that iFly Eco, which I'm flying today. You're going to see the shit flying from that in the near future. I got a Flylens 75 sent by Flywoo to have a look at, and I've got some stuff for Ardra as well. The real interesting thing is where we're at in the hobby right now, and I'm a bit worried. I can feel the walls closing in. We are in a precarious position. We've had this BL Heli thing, which we don't fully understand, and I've seen a lot of comments around it. And look, we have to be fair to the company and the dev team. We don't know what's happened. I am hearing some interesting stuff in the background, but we don't know if their doors have been kicked in. We don't know if they've been given any choice here. The reality is, we are under siege somewhat as a hobby now. Our hobby has turned into a weapon, and it's been weaponized in the worst possible way. And I think regulators around the world have woke up and gone, Jesus, for like $1,000 all in, you can buy and build something that can fly, it's just an arbitrary 5 kilometers, and has a payload capacity. And the reality is, a FPV drone can be easily weaponized, it's non-traceable, it can fly at 70 plus mile an hour, and it is hardly surprising that all of the regulators have got really twitchy around all of this. The governments, the regulators, the armies, anyone in a position of power has looked at this and gone, wait a minute, we've let everyone build these really cheap things that can be used to do really bad things that we can't detect, we can't see, and we can't stop. And the reality is, yes. And we are in a difficult position. And I do feel that it's going to be a rough few years. I think all we can do, though, is not panic. I think we've just got to keep showing the good things that drones and model aircraft can be used for. Lost dogs, search and rescue, filming, hobby, joy, fun, all of the stuff this stuff is good for, and it will work out in the end. But it is a complex time, and I especially for the DJI stuff, I am leaning now on the opinion that DJI will be banned. I actually do think DJI is going to get banned in America. I don't think that means you're not going to be able to fly your DJI drone. I've seen so many comments on Facebook of people going, what if DJI stopped me flying? I think people need to be realistic, and even if the US law changed to DJI is banned, you're not allowed to use their products, DJI are not going to go, oh yeah, okay then, because the government has said you're not allowed to use them, we're going to stop your products flying. In fact, DJI are going to do the opposite, right? Anything that goes against what DJI want, they're going to do the opposite. So DJI are not going to block your products from flying. If you have FPV, if you have a Mavic, if you have anything, they're not going to just go, oh, your government has said you're not allowed to use it, we're going to impose a restriction. DJI will do the opposite. So you don't have to worry if your product will still work. What you'll have to worry about is what the law is and the legislation says you are allowed to do. But it feels like it is a very real possibility something silly is going to happen. And what that's going to look like and how that spreads, I don't know. You know, the US does this. I don't know what the rest of the world will do. Could I even see it happen in the UK? We're not really a country that I see that kind of rhetoric on, but it is a possibility, especially if the US do it. I think the election will have a big impact, and I'm not talking politics here, but what I mean is I actually think, genuinely, if Trump gets in, I don't think the ban will happen. I think if Biden continues, then I think it will. And the only reason I say that is I see some large noise from Trump on talking to China, battered them down, told them to stop. I've saved everything. I talked about this on the Express LRS Discord actually last night, and I can just see a world where Trump sort of becomes the saviour. And, you know, I told China they can't do this. They've said they're going to stop. It's all fine. I saved the drones. I saved the kids. I saved the TikTok. I've even got the speech in my head, the irony is. And I just think there'll be some sort of North-South Korea style event around that, and everything will continue. Whereas I think if Biden gets in, I think it could happen. It could even happen under Trump, but I think it's more so under Biden. So we're going to have to see. And look, politically, I don't care about the politics side of this. This was just about where I feel I think something will kick in. But yeah, it's going to be weird, and I don't know where the future lies for us at the moment. But all we can do is be positive. All we can do is keep flying and try not to get mixed up in it too much. The reality is, let it happen. What will happen will happen. Have your say with your senators, your legislators, but let's see where the land lies and then deal with it. There will never be a complete end. We will always find a way. That is the reality. But I do think we are going to face some challenges on that respect, and we've seen it now with the BL Heli situation, and I think that won't be the last. Expect to see some other stuff come out in the woodwork too. Now, before I wrap this one up on messages, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else to talk about? I've probably upset someone I don't know somewhere. DJI, I think we're going to see O3 support on the Goggles 3 in the next 3 months. That's where I'm leaning on at the moment. We are very confident that is going to happen. O3 support on the Goggles 3. I don't think you're going to see, though, the older ear units. Don't expect ear unit in Vista even in that O3 mode. I don't think it will happen. I personally think you're only going to see the O3 ear unit. There's no signs of an O4 ear unit anytime soon, okay? There's still no signs of that happening. We're still seeing nothing at all around that. Avata 2 has been interesting. That new update is very good. It does fix the ham file issues. I firmly believe DJI messed up. I don't think any of that was intentional. I think that was a mess up, not an intentional change to the way ham worked. They've now fixed that in the firmware. It still flies like a bag of shit. I'll be honest, right? The Avata, I haven't reviewed it yet, if you note. The drone is not great. It flies like a bag of crap, being honest. Massively underpowered, wobbles all over the place. The only good thing about the Avata 2 is the flight time and the image quality. As a drone, it is not a very good one, and you would be far better buying something like a Cinelog with a GoPro and getting yourself set up that way. It's a great new starter drone, but it's not a freestyle quad, and I keep seeing people freestyling it. And look, I can use a screwdriver as a hammer. I can use a rock as a hammer, but it doesn't mean it's the right tool for the job, and the same stands for the Avata 2. You can use, I tend to use a screwdriver as a chisel a lot of the time, but it doesn't mean it's a good one. It's a great starter product. It's got great flight time, great image quality. Out-the-box experience is fantastic, but it's a terrible drone. And regardless of how much people want it to be a freestyle quad, it's just not. And honestly, there are times where I see some of the stuff people post. It's like, guys, it's not designed for this, and you're going to have a failure. You're going to smash it into the wall. You're going to smash it into the ground, especially how underpowered it is. It is insanely underpowered for its size. It's not just about being a ducted whoop. It's not really a whoop, let's be honest. A ducted aircraft, but it's so underpowered, it's crazy. But look, it's good to see DJI develop things. With regards to that update, oh my God, my leg's going to sleep. I can't feel my leg. Bloody hell. I feel like my foot has fallen off. Jesus wept. What have I done? With regards to this firmware update, I'm not going to sit on that rock again. That clearly hit a point. Now, with regards to this firmware update, today, the Goggles 2 and Integra are by far DJI's most compatible, best buy goggle today. I don't recommend anyone buys the Goggles 3 right now. Buy the Goggles 2 and Integra. Most compatibility, more compatibility than the V2s now as well. So with regards to DJI system, that is the goggle you want to buy if you want to get into DJI, and the Integra is probably the best deal, period. It's really good to see DJI have widened their compatibility. Obviously, there's people upset that you can't use the Goggles 3 with the FPV Remote 2 and vice versa, but the reality is there's always going to be some hard lines in the sand. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with O3 on this. I think you'll end up with O3 using the FPV Remote version 2 is where I think it'll end up being. But that isn't confirmed, obviously. But yeah, the Integras are by far the best deal out there today. The Goggles 3 are nice, but they're just not a great product today. The compatibility is limited. There's so much compatibility on the Goggles 2 and Integra now. It is the end of the V2s. I don't think you're going to see any more for the V2s. No more compatibility, no Avata 2 compatibility, nothing new coming to the V2s. They are end of the world now. I'm at the stage where I'm even tempted to sell mine, but we're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, it was good to see DJI bring that update. But as I've said, as a FPV quad, the Avata is terrible. I want to say a huge thank you to the Patreons, and I don't do this enough, but the Patreons are the ones who make the channel possible. I would not be able to do it without their support. FPV Wiki has been ticking along nicely. More work to be done, but the Patreons have helped with supporting that, allowed me to, the money from Patreon does help for me to pay for the website and stuff. And really, what the Patreon money does is allow me to be able to buy test equipment, allow me to buy products that other manufacturers don't want to send me. We've had some really great support recently, and I just want to say a huge thank you. It's incredible that people are willing to donate to the channel and me and what we do, and I just want to thank you for it. I genuinely, if the Patreons stopped, I would probably stop tomorrow, because I don't think I could make it work on ad revenue alone. Ad revenue is important, and people don't think you don't. Look, as a creator, I do make money now. I don't make enough money to pay my bills, but the channel makes money, and that money goes into buying products to talk about on the channel. It gives me freedom. People think creators make loads of money, and I got Lamborghinis and private jets, and look, I don't. But the channel does now have a stable income, which means I have the ability to go and buy stuff to talk about. There's a few things I've got in my mind I want to purchase for the channel, which are quite expensive, but they're going to allow us to take a step further. You know, the last big thing we bought was that camera, which was like an £800 tools-wise, the 1,000 frames a second camera, which allows me to, you know, do the latency testing. I want to now, there's a couple of things I'm looking at which are very interesting. I want to get a CNC, because there's some cool stuff I want to talk about around that and do around that, but I'm still leaning on where to go with that. But also I'm looking at a special kind of microscope, because what I'd also like to start doing is going even further on the technical stuff that we've been doing, and get a microscope where we can start looking at some of the insides of the chips that are being used in the products we buy at a lot closer level. I can't remember the name of the microscope. It's the type of microscope that you don't see through, so it can look at surface stuff, because, you know, a traditional microscope, you look through stuff, but it's going to need to be high resolution. Or the other option is I start stripping the chips and start sending it to like a lab to be looked at, which would be cool. I want to make some content that we haven't seen before, some really interesting stuff. But really, the channel has grown incredibly, and the patrons have allowed that to happen. And I just want to say a huge thank you from me. It just would not be possible without your support. Anyways, I think this has gone on for way too long. I'm going to go and fly these batteries. The tide's coming in, look. The water, I'm going to get flooded in a minute, so I need to go. I hope you've enjoyed my few rants. I will see you later on for the live stream. Stay safe. I will speak to you soon.